So I'm going to break down the basics. Even though Richard Schaefer is out of his contract right now, him and Al Haymon were purchased out of whatever their agreement was with Golden Boy Promotions, as well as about 90%, maybe 95% of, maybe even higher, of Al Haymon fighters as well. So basically, guys like Danny Garcia, Adrien Broner, Keith Thurman, Marcos Maidana, Robert Guerrero, those guys are gone. You know, all the way down to the brothers Charlo. They're gone. So, back in June, I believe it was in June, back in June, Richard Schaefer stepped down. Oscar De La Hoya filed $50 million arbitration, but to dumb it down, basically somewhat of a lawsuit, but instead you don't go in front of the courts, you try to handle it, well, you do handle it via mediation. So, what Oscar De La Hoya was suing him for was basically, or arbitration, was the fact that Golden Boy Promotions was in a situation where Richard Schaefer was allowing these fighters to sign with Al Haymon when their contracts were up, but not sign with Golden Boy Promotions, or allowing our fighters to sign with Al Haymon, but then not sign with Golden Boy Promotions, period, or have no intentions to do so. Having fighters like Erislandy Lara fighting on all these Golden Boy cards and just disrespecting, I'm not a Golden Boy fighter. You know, stuff like that. You know, and I think to myself, right now, looking at the fact that Golden Boy Promotions has fighters, let me tell you who they have, that we know for sure. They have Amir Khan. They have who's still promoted by Al Haymon, and most likely after his deal is up with Golden Boy Promotions will probably go straight to Al Haymon, or maybe that could have just been a part of their agreement, because I knew that if De La Hoya was going to let all these fighters go, and we learned now that he could have still maintained a relationship with Al Haymon. Maybe a part of the agreement was, well, listen, Al, leave me these certain amount of fighters, and even though you're still managing and advising them, you know, don't interfere if I want to put them in big matches, which is the reason why we're hearing Amir Khan versus Timothy Bradley. And the politics of that, you know, that's a whole different video in its own. So, of course you're going to be pissed off at Richard Schaefer when you're seeing the fact that a guy like Omar Figueroa, contract expires with Golden Boy, you know, and then he signs with Al Haymon, but not with Golden Boy. Same thing with Abner Maris. And you're thinking to yourself, well, damn, who do you be mad at? How do you allow something like that to happen? Because looking at the situation where Golden Boy is in right now, once again, these are the fighters that we know for sure that they have left. You know, so all those fighters, like the Keith Thurmans, Robert Guerreros, the Charlos, Deontay Wilder, Chris, all those guys, Chris Arreola wasn't on, but all those guys are going. All of them. You know, let's say if Haymon has 150 fighters that were fighting on Golden Boy cards or may have been fighting on Golden Boy cards in the past, no more. So, since you got guys like, once again, Saul Canelo Alvarez, they signed up David Lemieux. You got Lucas Matthysse advised by Al Haymon. You got Amir Khan advised by Al Haymon. You got Leo Santa Cruz advised by Al Haymon. Leo Santa Cruz has to be in the big fight regardless. And since I guess Golden Boy is in a situation where they have control of Leo Santa Cruz, more control than Al Haymon has over Leo Santa Cruz. And I know it sounds crazy, but what I'm saying is this. Think of the deal once again being constructed. Haymon, I'll let you guys go and you go do your own thing. You know, but you got to leave me full control over Leo Santa Cruz, even though you got to, you know. So I don't want to get too much deeper than that. But so much been going on with this NBC Sports deal. It makes me think like, well, will Golden Boy fighters fight Al Haymon fighters, and will they be on Showtime? Because Steven Espinoza and Oscar De La Hoya was going back and forth at each other. You know, and Steven Espinoza is homies with Richard Schaefer, not Oscar De La Hoya. You know, and Al Haymon. So I think to myself, I mean, this whole situation is ugly. And I think it's hard not to ride with the person who is the fighter and who fought the best no matter what. Oscar De La Hoya did not duck nobody. And if he did, people say, well, he ducked. No. If he did, then there was a big fight to follow. Obviously, he was getting a bigger fight. So when you got a guy that fought everybody he could possibly fight in his era, you know, running a boxing organization, he's got those guys. He don't care about those guys' records because he lost his record away. I mean, his undefeated record to Felix Trinidad, and they say he was never the same after that. But when you see him looking at guys like Danny Garcia, who was undefeated, you look at guys like Keith Thurman, who's undefeated. You look at guys like that, he probably think to himself, like, man, zeros don't mean nothing. If you fight him and him, if you match these two together, then the fans are going to love him regardless. You know, like, there's certain fighters like Gabriel Rosado who can still sell tickets no matter what, win or loss. Why? Because he fights the best. You know, so that goes to show that you can still make money and still fill seats, you know, even though you may take a loss. And I can understand Oscar De La Hoya's frustration, you know, when you go to Al Haymon and, you know, you want to make Danny Garcia versus Lamont Peterson or Danny Garcia versus Matthysse too, and he say, nah, I'll give you Rod Soka. You know, or if you say, like, what about Amir Khan and Adrien Broner? He says, nah, you know, I advise that Amir Khan fights Luis Collazo. You know, and I can understand where Oscar is coming from, where basically they were saying, I mean, Golden Boy Promotions basically saying, like, what's the point of having all these fighters if we can't make the fights we want? And he got to go to Haymon, and he's not the promoter. He's got to go to Haymon and say, Haymon, can we make this? And then Haymon says, no, I'll give you this stuff. You know? So you can blame part of this situation as far as 2014 is concerned, you know, where I seen them bullshit fights is maybe Haymon knew, like, let me save my guys now. If they're going to lose, they're going to lose on my watch. Because all these fights, Haymon fighters won the fights they were supposed to win. What upsets were there this year where a Haymon fighter lost? Exactly. IMT Street Controversy, your most complete boxing reporter on YouTube, bar none. It's what I do. I cover every single major fight live. Twitter is the T Street Controversy tag. Wait, TC. This is where I got to get better at social media because my Facebook is popping, my Instagram is popping, all my other social media is popping, my Google Plus is popping, you know, but not my Twitter. So all my social media information is right there below. I am active on Twitter now. You know, follow me on Twitter. T Street Controversy Live. People ask shit like, well, what's your Facebook? T Street Controversy. What's your Instagram? T Street Controversy. What's your Twitter? T Street Controversy. Please subscribe.